Vinak everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for those who are viewing my videos for the first time, that this is the video that you've chosen to start your journey with me. For those of you who have been listening to my other videos and who followed me for a while, welcome back. And this video today is on our title, which was Langakali, a year 13 poem. This is one of the 4 poems that we'll be doing, but this is one of the 2 under the theme globalization. So once again, under globalization, we have 2 poems, which is Langakali and Sunday Sadness, both by the same poet, Konai Helitamen. So what a wonderful poems these are. What a wonderful poet, and her poem resonates to all of us Pacific Islanders. So wherever you're listening from, I hope you see it in a different light as I discuss. So without further ado, let us start. And I would like to start with the title, which is Langakali. And if you did not know, it is also a flower. So those of us in the Pacific, we are privy to this, that it is a flower. But if you do not know, the Langakali is one of the indigenous flowers of the Kingdom of Tonga and is well known for its smooth fragrance. Now, this flower is also present in Fiji and some other Pacific islands. So I am here in Fiji and I have seen Langakali, and yes, it has such a fragrance that is unique to its name. So the poem not only symbolizes our indigenous culture, but it's also supposed to show to us that there is something that was there that isn't. So let us start with a discussion. So while I'm discussing this, you are to already have seen and read the poem. So I'm just going to discuss the notes, not the poem. So let's move on to the notes discussion. All right, so our notes today is brought to you from our Fiji Year 13 English Communication textbook. This is readily available on the Ministry of Education website. You can always ask your teachers for this. They're meant to be sent to all schools because they are CDU provided. So it is from this textbook. So that is the title of our poem, Langakali. Now we'll go to plot. Remember, in poetry, there is no such thing as a summary, or, well, basically plot is like what the poem is about, okay? So the first stanza reveals the observation of the persona, the jellyfish swimming in the wastes, sick people in hospital, government houses killing hangale, and small boys swimming in a small pit and saying it is forbidden to go to sea because it is Sunday. What I thought was very ironic with our poem was that there is a contradiction to what is happening. For one, there is sick people that are filled in the hospitals when we've got a wide variety of herbal medicine that is readily available outside. You've got jellyfish swimming in the wastes. Basically, that is our biodiversity that is sick because of our foolishness, and that is just pollution. Then you have boys swimming in a small pit. So that could be her interpretation of, swimming pools where the ocean is massive and glorious. But we would rather our children, or we would rather see ourselves swimming in the pool rather than swimming in the ocean. Moving on, we have in the second stanza. Now the second stanza is questioning and reflecting on our modern life, whether it is necessary for people to wear trousers and neckties, whether traditional medicine should be thrown away, and its consequences. Now, if you've read the poem, you would know that the same medicine that we throw away later comes and destroys our homes. I think that's a circle of life. Things that you usually throw away, like the saying goes, one man's is trash is another man's is treasure. But in this sense, Mother Nature will always have its last say. So that is what happened. The consequences of throwing something as important as traditional medicine. In stanza 3, it reflects more on the type of life we are living when we want to be modernized. So polishing shoes for a parliament closing parade, standing in the sun. Now the persona makes matters clear by saying we need their money, but not their religion. Remember, the persona can be or not is the poet. So never get them both the same. It is entirely dependent on the poet's interpretation. So the persona continues by urging young people to continue with traditional jobs to pay for expenses. So jobs like fishing, carving, that can also continue to pay for the expenses that they need, either to go to school for an education, etc. Stanza 4 expresses sympathy of the persona for the plight of Langakali. The persona, however, has come back to the society stronger to save the dying culture. So, in my previous video in Sunday Sadness, I had said something which was, think global but act local. Change is inevitable. We have nothing to, we cannot stop it, okay? Our culture is changing, so what we need to do is continue to maintain our culture, but also keep in mind that at the end of the day, things will change. So we cannot be isolated, because there will continuously be changes that needs to be culminated into our society. Okay, stanza 5, moving on. Now, stanza 5 probes the persona's questions to Langakali, whether it was expecting the return, whether it was expecting the return of traditional culture. The impact of human actions, especially burning, has been described. It may be good for soil, but affects trees. So, where I live in Lautoka, usually after the cutting season, then there's a fire. It also depends on the weather. So the farmers, they usually raise their fields to the ground, and when they do this, it is to enrich the soil. So, but however, there are repercussions, there are consequences. So remember, this is the same poet, Konahele Temun, who wrote Island Fire, a poem that you did in year 10, who wrote Sunday Sadness, another poem that you have done or are about to do after this poem. So this is all her interpretation of what our culture has been through or is going through, and where are we at the end of the day? Where is your stance on this? Okay, now we'll move on to the themes. So themes are lessons learned. Themes are also the moral values of any genre of literature. So let's look at the themes of Langakali. First one is globalization. Now, globalization, or the impact of global businesses or westernization into our traditional culture. It has influenced our traditional culture, just like Sunday Sadness. This poem tries to raise awareness on the impact of culture loss in smaller island nations due to the comfort and luxury seen in the Western cultures. For instance, Viola Hospital was meant for our ailing brothers from the north, but now people tend to be dependent on the modern medicine when they throw this medicinal branch out the door. Now, the persona does not wholly condemn globalization by stating the significance of money in their life. We need their money, but not their religion. Even incentives such as help your father carve heads from the tamanu are provided for young people to pay for your fees in the church. The persona also claims that modern culture has forced people to do such things that may have sounded totally ridiculous in the traditional culture, such as grandma is probably laughing in her grave. Her educated son wears boots, even in the house. So like I said earlier, there's a lot of contradiction of what we are trying to do. We say that we are deeply rooted in our tradition, but in reality, we are not. We have changed. Try and walk a full day without any shoes. Wherever you are going, our soles of our feet have become so soft compared to our ancestors. So that is where our grandparents and our ancestors would laugh at us, looking at us now. Okay? But the persona also is trying to tell us that we need their money. Yes, we do. We need it to pay for school fees, but we don't need their religion. Next theme we have is cultural pride. Cultural pride. Now, the persona is obviously very proud of his or her cultural heritage and identity. Throughout the poem, the persona is trying to make people realize what they are losing. Must we now wear trousers and neckties to be respectable? Even the persona was swayed, but came back strong. But I heard the song of the sea made my heart strong. The poem may not be entirely about environment, but touches on the impact of burning forest. When forest is burnt, the trees suffer. They take so long to mature. Some people think that burning helps improve the productivity of soil, but do not realize that it will affect trees and environment. So like I said earlier when we had discussed the plot about the soil being burned. However, when we had discussed earlier too about cultural pride, sometimes we need to realize that our culture needs to be saved, and in order for it to be saved is by people wanting it to be saved. So where is our cultural pride? The persona is trying to show that we need to take some action. We need to ask questions. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Is it good for our environment? Is it good for our culture? Is it good for our morality? Okay, so all those things need to be taken into account. Good, so now let's look at style, the style of Langakali. So the style will start with symbolism. Symbolism is a figure of speech where things that might seem ordinary but they symbolize something else. So symbolism, like the flower Langakali, is a traditional flower, and in the poem, it symbolizes traditional culture. It may also represent the old people in the society. Sorry, there was a loud car. Or the old people in the society who cannot do much to make the children realize the impact of loss of traditional culture. So young kids, you are oblivious right now. That's why we are doing these poems in year 13. It's for you to realize that our culture is changing. Whenever I speak to my year 13, I tell them, can you give me an example of our culture loss? So most of them would look at the obvious, like our language, our dress, what we wear, what we eat. And I would always like to say our main culture loss is respect. Might not seem obvious to young people because most of the time you are the ones doing the disrespecting. But as you get to a certain age, you then realize respect goes a long way. It opens doors for you. It gives you a sense of purpose in your society. So in our culture, respect goes a long way. Okay, moving on. Symbolism. The viola is the government hospital in the capital of Tonga. Now, it represents the modern medicine which people find so convenient. However, like I thought the other day to my year 13, convenience, but there are a lot of side effects when it comes to Western medicine. For traditional medicine, there is little to no side effects. So, but we are so brainwashed that we are so quick to opt for or choose Western medicine rather than local medicine, rather than indigenous medicine. Okay, now let's move on to personification. Remember, personification is using human-like qualities to non-human things. So why do you weep, Langakali? Remember, Langakali is a flower. It's inanimate. It's not a human. So it is using human-like quality, which is weep. So the persona has used a personification. Is it because they lied to you? Now, such use of personification helps readers to identify with the short life of the flower. When it is not matured or cared for, it dies. Just like culture. It also makes the ideas more appealing. So this is a good talking point when it comes to your essays. So the essay question can come as use a style or use what has the poet used in order to bring out the theme. Then you can use personification. All right. So this is all part of you delving deeper into your poetry. Now we'll move on to irony, the next style. The jellyfish at Whangauta swim freely in the wastes. Jellyfish will not be able to swim freely in the wastes, so that's where the irony is. Perhaps it is referring to the plastics floating with the waste and looking like jellyfish from afar. So yeah, that is a big problem in the Pacific. We are becoming more globalized, and with this globalization come the trash, the rubbish, and we have become lazy because it is convenient for us to just out of sight, out of mind. But we do not realize, when we are not cautious with how we use our waste, it will come back and haunt us in the end. So the next style is rhetorical devices. So the use of dialogues, examples, have you heard the latest? And why don't you go to see? Now remember, rhetorical devices, we've learned this in language of advertisement in year 11. So rhetorical devices like rhetorical questions that doesn't need an answer, but these questions are usually posed to us in order for us to think. So have you heard the latest? And why don't you go to see? Now, the use of dialogues makes the poem more interesting and realistic. Yes, because questions are there for us to think. And when you are thinking, that makes the poet and the persona reach across its message. Next, we have rhetorical questions. These are numerous questions present. Have you heard the latest? Must you throw this medicinal branch out the window? Must I wear this black garb for another day? Now, the use of questions helps arouse readers' interest and reflection of the issues. Like I said earlier, it just basically is asking you to think about these questions. Think about, what are we doing? What is happening? So, as the persona is trying to ask us these questions, so is the poet, which ties back to our theme, which is globalization. Our last style for the poem Langakali is the use of repetition. For example, your brick house, you and your sick son. The repetition of you helps the persona to accuse the modern people. It also gives that now people value personal items and not the communal system of our, which is synonymous in our Pacific society. Now, because Europeans are usually individuals, they work on their own, they believe in gaining their own success. But however, for us who come from the Pacific, we know that everything that we do, there is communal living. What is yours is mine, what is mine is yours. So in the village, if you come from villages, if you are Pacific Islander, if you are an indigenous to your island, we know that we are always meant to share with our neighbors. Alright, so thank you, students. That was our short discussion on Langakali, one of the 4 poems that you are doing in year 13. Remember, Langakali comes with Sunday Sadness under the theme Globalization. And if you are doing The Woman and My Neighbor, they come under Gender, which I've already discussed earlier in the video. So scroll through the list of videos that I've done. If you're in year 13, this is the last poem that I will be discussing. So all 4 poems are there. Even a literature essay, they will be coming up, more literature essay. There'll be also novel and short stories under the theme choices coming up. So please continue to like and subscribe, because this will also let me know that you are interested, and I will continue to upload videos for all our students here in Fiji and abroad. So thank you once again for everything. Wish you all the best in your revision if you are using this just before your exams. And if this is the first time that you're watching this, thank you. And I continue to ask that you watch the other videos and share it as well, please, on every other social media. Thank you once again, and please drop a comment whether you understood or whether you think that you need further clarification under the poem Langakali.